Welcome to your favorite breakfast show, your #1 breakfast show that brings you all the trending news on entertainment, sports, and lots more, reaching you live from television Nigeria, Gusape Hills, Abuja. With me this morning, it's my co-host.
My name is Sophia. Good to have you this morning. A blessed Monday.
Yes. This morning we're excited, of course, because it's Children's Day, but we're going to be talking about, later in our discussion, we're going to be talking about the implementation of the child rights. As much as we celebrate our children this morning, we have loads and loads of things that the children are going through in the country. So you stay with us while we go to Priscilla to get the headlines for the AM News. We'll be right back.
This is the AM News. Good morning. I am Priscilla Iworm. The Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU has called on well-meaning Nigerians to caution the federal government to honor its agreement with the union to forestall further industrial crisis in the nation's tertiary education sector. The union's president, Biodun Ogunyemi, in an interview on Sunday, said that government has not kept faith with the union memorandum of agreement signed on February 7th. According to him, the union has a time frame attached to every action, hence the current call for caution on the part of the government, explaining that the government had told the union that the funds had been approved, but there was a huge difference between approval of such funds and its implementation. He said that 3 months after the said approval, the funds were yet to get to the union and therefore urged Nigerians to call on the government to honor the agreement reached with the union to forestall further industrial action. The Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekon, yesterday advised President Muhammadu Buhari to change his style of leadership if Nigeria must recover from its current social-economic crisis, saying Nigerians are getting poorer, feeling hopeless and helpless. Onayekon, who represented the President Catholic Bishops' Conference, Archbishop Augustine Akubeze, stated this while delivering a message at the interdenominational church service for 2019 presidential inauguration ceremony held at National Christian Center, Abuja. Onayekon, who noted with dismay that Nigeria was not in a state where anyone should rejoice, adding that the blame game of pointing accusing fingers at others will not take Nigeria far. Onayekon further said that for a position change to take place, Nigerians must all be ready for a sincere change of heart from the lowest to highest, but especially at the highest level. He stressed that it is important for Nigerian leaders to tell themselves the truth and accept failure, noting that while the rich were swimming in affluence, a number of poor Nigerians sadly continued to be in the increase, urging Nigerians to love the country and defend it in whatever way they can. The wife of the outgoing governor of Lagos State and chairperson of the Committee of Wives of Lagos officials, Bolanle Ambode, has handed over to the wife of the governor-elect, Dr. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, at a ceremony on Sunday in Ikeja. Ambode urged Sanwo-Olu to take the committee to greater height. She lauded the vision of the founding mothers of the committee, which was to complement the efforts of the government in critical areas that were women and children friendly, explaining that the committee under successive leaderships had continued to pursue a lofty vision. According to her, this has led to remarkable improvements in the lives of women and girls and children in vital areas of health, empowerment, and education. She thanked members of the committee for their support over the past 4 years, lauding her predecessors for the advice and words of wisdom. The federal government has revealed that payment of 30,000 naira new wage has started from April 18th, the date when President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Minimum Wage Amendment Act bill into law. Dr. Chris Ngige, the Minister of Labour and Employment, who gave the clarification at the weekend during an interactive section with newsmen in Abuja also stated that no governor in the 36 states of the Federation will renege on paying the new 30,000 naira minimum wage. The minister noted that a committee is working out a new template for upward consequential adjustments for those already earning above 30,000 naira. Ngige said a committee is working out a new template with which will adjust upward the consequential adjustment upstairs for those already earning above 30,000 naira. The Imo State Governor, Roches Okorocha, has declared that come what may, he will become the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The embattled outgoing governor stated this in a valedictory Thanksgiving service held at the Government House Chapel in Owerri. According to Governor Okorocha, the political travails he faced now, particularly the seizure of his certificate of return as the Imo State Senator-elect, were only his stepping stone to the presidential seat. Okorocha berated his political adversaries who, according to him, wanted him to end up in prison, noting that they don't want him to be at the National Assembly, but he will not give up. And that was the AM News. Thank you so much for watching. I am Priscilla Iworm. Just stay tuned for the Daybreak show.
Welcome to News Across Africa on Daybreak Africa. The former head of a notorious Ethiopian prison has been arrested and is expected to face trial. Hassan Ismail Ibrahim was arrested in neighboring Somalia in a town where he had been hiding following a tip-off. Campaigners say inmates were routinely tortured at Jail Ogaden when he ran in Ethiopia's Somalia region. Many prisoners were accused of being linked to the separatist group, the Ogaden National Liberation Front, but that group signed a peace deal with the government in October following the appointment of Abiy Ahmed as Prime Minister. A boat accident in west of the Democratic Republic of Congo is feared to have killed at least 30 people, with many more reported missing. The mayor of the town of Inongo, Simon Umbo Wemba, said there were more than 350 people on board the vessel when it sank in bad weather late on Saturday. About half are still unaccounted for. Many of those on board are thought to have been teachers who were traveling across Lake Nombe to collect their salaries. 4 people have been killed at a Catholic church in the North Burkina Faso, the latest in a series of attacks the government blames on Islamic militants. A government minister told the BBC that 8 armed men targeted the church in the town of Tolfe during Mass on Sunday. Earlier this month, gunmen killed 4 people taking part in Catholic procession just days after a priest and 5 parishioners were shot dead in a church in northern town of Dablo. Several jihadist groups have become increasingly active in Burkina Faso, frequently attacking villages and towns in the east and north of the country. Nearly 400 people are reported to have been killed since 2015. Sudanese rebel leader has returned to the country after years in exile, despite having been sentenced to death in absentia. Yesser Aman was convicted for involvement in an uprising that began in 2011 in Blue Nile State. He is reported to have faced no problem from the authorities on his arrival. He returned 6 weeks after President Omar al-Bashir was ousted from power, and observers speculate that he could take part in peace talks. Aman joined the SPLM rebel group in south of Sudan in the 1980s when it was fighting against the Khartoum government. After South Sudan seceded in 2011, he formed the SPLM Group N rebel group, which kept fighting President Omar al-Bashir troops in the Blue Nile State, forcing tens of thousands from their homes. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has been inaugurated at a stadium in the capital, Pretoria. The African National Congress leader vowed to tackle corruption and rejuvenate the struggling economy. More than 30,000 people gathered to witness the ceremony, which included a fly-past and military parade. Ramaphosa was elected earlier this month with a majority of 57.5%, the smallest since the party came to power 25 years ago. Thanks for staying with us. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
Welcome to another beautiful Monday morning, the 27th of May 2019, and we are at Wuse Zone 5 looking at the newspapers for today, what the headlines are saying. 2 days That is like less than 48 hours before the inauguration of the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari. And let's see what the newspapers are saying in regards to this and in regards to other happenings around the country in the past 24 hours. So we start our review today from this day. And the major headline there, very bold: Buhari meets northern governors over worsening insecurity. Violence erupts in Jos, many killed, houses torched. PDP blames APC president for escalating despondency. Nigeria dancing on the brink of chaos, says Onayekon. Osibanjo, the future is bright. So all of these stories are continued on page 8 of today's This Day. And there you have the picture story of this in Patutomi, Miss Temi Otedola representing her father, and and the governor of Ekiti State. Yeah, at the conferment of Zik Prize for Business Leadership 2018 on Otedola in Lagos. Then beside the picture story, you have federal government Shell begin production sharing contract negotiations. Yeah, that story also continues on page 8. Just below that story, you have anxiety, uncertainty in military over service chiefs succession battles. That story is actually on page 12. And above the masthead, you have survey. Dangote remains most admired African brand, retains position for second consecutive year, and that story also continues on page 10. And then we move on to the Guardian. Let's see what the Guardians have. So, major headline: Buhari under fire over nation's oil sector woes. And above the masthead, you have PDP seeks probe into Aisha Buhari's allegation graft in SIP. Hope, disappointment, and renewed hope. That is an editorial on page 6. Domesticating, enforcing global plan to protect Nigerian children from abuse. That is also a special report, and you find it on page 52. And before we move on to the next paper, we would like to take a comment from a citizen. So from the headlines so far, you've seen the headlines, and which of it captured your attention the most?
The one that is capturing attention is that Nigeria needs to sit down together and reason on how to solve their security issues, right, instead of blaming one another. Yeah. Then I can also see that we are preparing for our Children's Day.
Yes.
So these are future generation. So we need to pray for them. They are seeing what's happening in the country. People are separating. We need to show them good example that Nigeria must be united. Right. So we need to go back. People are no longer farming. That's why we're talking about food security is becoming an issue now. Nobody wants to farm again. So because of terrorism, we need to calm down on this terrorism that is happening. People are no longer farming. They are in their houses. They cannot farm again because there is insecurity everywhere. So the security system of this country must sit down together and find our solution.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you for giving me this
All right, sir.
opportunity.
Okay, and another comment here. Good morning.
Yeah, morning. My name is Egwera Iyogon.
All right, sir.
Based on the captions, headlines,
Yes.
this day now, so to me, is like Nigeria is divided. We have one president for the north. In respect of the issue of a worsening situation, the insecurities. Why must my president, Buhari, meeting the northern governor?
Okay.
Security challenge is nationwide. It's not a northern issue. Why should it be for the north alone? And I don't believe.
It's because it's most less and prevalent in these northern states. That is why it's meeting.
I am not south, even in the south. So it's not a question of the north. It's a question of the global issues. I'm a Nigerian. So dividing Nigeria now is very, very wrong. Look at what is going on here. Now you got the priest coming to speak against bad advisors. So it means that Buhari is not working. Based on the bad review here, you can see. I'm not a speaker. But I just want a pointer here. Right. Look at the governors now. They are now divided. They say pay this. They agree now. The incoming and the outgoing, are they fighting for their own? Is it not the interest of the nation? Right. Whoever that Nigerian deems fit to be employed has been employed. Payment is not an issue for you to come and disagree. So Nigeria belongs to all of us. It's not a divided home.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment. And just to pick up from where he stopped, so let us look at the headline of The Nation. Onayekon prays against bad advisors for Buhari. And he said, Osibanjo sees bright future at inauguration service. That story continues on page 6 of The Nation. And that's what our recent citizen was actually commenting on. Above the masthead, you have Ingige to state, don't delay minimum wage. That is on page 7. Senate, House, rush to amend EFCC Act. That is also on page 7. $40,000 scholarship for UTME Best. Also on page 7. Air Force strikes bandits in Zamfara. All right, that story is on page 42. NNPC posts $490.03 million crude oil export. That is actually on page 6. Flying Eagles targets win over US. And that is all for The Nation. Let's look at Vanguard. What's the Vanguard saying here? Screaming headline, no governor can say he won't pay. That is on the minimum wage. Says 30,000 naira minimum wage started April 18. Committee working out new template for consequential adjustment. That story, all of it is contained on page 8. And there you have the picture stories. There is that of the presidential inauguration interdenominational church service. And then you have most of the top leaders, Yemi Osibanjo, alongside his wife, the Senate President, we are all in attendance. And then let's move on to The Punch. The Punch here has a different headline. Children's Day, NUT bemoans worsening state of public primary schools. Right, that is page 2, and there the picture story, several pictures of people in their classroom in very bad shape. And below the picture story have National Assembly management asks lawmakers to quit offices Tuesday. That story is on page 10. Resident blame LCDA chairman as Ogun begins demolition of 300 buildings. That story is on page 4 and 5. Don't blame JAM if best student misses choice varsity. Yeah, that is coming from the board, and that is also on page 10. And good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
What's the name, sir?
My name is Umar Megida.
All right. So we have looked at the headlines, and you have seen them. We have different stories lined up.
Exactly.
I don't know which one in particular captured your attention that you have comments on.
What captured my mind is the Yoruba elders' comment about Fulanization of Nigeria, that they back Obasanjo. Well, we know the history of how Yorubas behave. They always, if they want to tackle a government, they will always bring an issue that is contrary to the control of the economy of the country. They will only bring something opposite, something that will ignite war. Because Obasanjo is known in this country always for creating chaos. As long as he predicts a government will not win, and at that time the government win the election, then he will be coming with those kind of issues, trying to create confusions with the people. If a Fulani man is killing a Fulani man, do you call it, he call it Fulanization? But when the Oduduwa were killing Hausa during his reign, why did he not call it Yorubanization? This is a question I want all Nigerians that hear me to ask themselves. Why is it now? Who are the Fulanis and where they are? These Fulanis are in northern Nigeria and mostly in Zamfara area. They are killing the Zamfara people, the Katsina people, and the rest, which are majority Fulani. But they call it, he call it, and the Yoruba elders followed him, that is the beginning of Islamization of Nigeria. Can I, at my age, believe with this kind of story, with this kind of intrigues, just to cause trouble to the country? Is this how to move Nigeria forward? Why can't he come with something tangible that will move Nigeria forward? What Islamization? That means if you are no more a Muslim, that means you are carried with him to follow what he is going to say. Why is Obasanjo like this? Why can't he bring something tangible, meaningful thing that will benefit everybody, ignite the youth to do? But his own is contrary always. I'm sorry for this Yoruba and their allies. I'm sorry for them. They don't want Nigeria to move. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments. I think that is all we can take for today's newspaper review. But right now, we are going to head back into the studio of Daybreak Africa, and we'll meet up with Lucy and Sapphire. Good morning.
Africa, reaching you live from television, Nigeria, Guzope Hills, Abuja. Sapphire, like we talked earlier to you, today is Children's Day. And I'm sure all the children at home, everyone is excited. Everyone is ready. Yeah, everyone is excited about it. But that brings me to, what the problems that children face in Nigeria.
Yes, that's how much the children, our children have been deprived of their rights. Because a lot of parents do not feel, especially the African parents in the context, do not feel that the Nigerian child have got some rights and privileges. Like when we were growing, and then you say, I want, this is my right. Say, shut up, what rights do you have? And all of those.
And that's, that also takes me to the general problem we have, in the country, where I'm sure by this time you walk into the streets of Abuja, you will see lots of children hawking. I've seen a couple of people, when you see them in churches and mosques and their house helps and things like that, are children, child labor, trafficking and things like that. That gives me a lot of concern. And it bothers me to the extent that I keep wondering, is the government actually doing anything about this?
Oh, well, there is a child right, so we should assume the government is doing something about that. But what are we as individuals doing about it? Because many a times we find out that it's the parents themselves that send these children out to the streets to hawk. Some of these children are sent out of school, and parents will send them out to the street to make money to pay their school fees. Sometimes it goes like that. It's really saddening to know that a lot of children out there are not properly taken care of.
And that even gets me to this Alamajiri issue that we have.
Alamajiri?
Which is actually going in the north. It's like the everyday thing. And
well, the Alamajiri issue has become a norm. It has become a lifestyle for us in the north. We are now seeing it as Nigerians, we now see it as a way of life. It's not something unusual.
But I think it has a bit of religion back up to that.
Oh well, it's assumed that most of the, of course, most of the Almajiris are Muslims, but that's not what we're talking about. We're looking at the context of our children. Almajiri, because even down to the east, we also have children who are being sent out to hawk, to wash for people, to beg, and it keeps happening every time. And then let's digress a little, Lizzie. Let's look down to the way parents maltreat children. Not just parents, of course, employees.
Guidance and all that.
How they maltreat children. Today I was on the internet, on social media, and then I saw a story of a child who was beaten by the mother and injured on the head. These are very normal stories in our setting. And the mother fled. After she knew what she did, she fled. I'm not particularly too sure what the reason was, but I really do not think there's a reason for that. There should be any reason reasonable enough for something like that to happen. Yeah. It has become so normal in our system.
We are taking it. I think parents are beginning to take it over the board. When we, the African culture, where we believe that by hitting a child is by correcting the child, by punishing a child. But I believe, as much as we use that African culture, I think the millennials, which is the children we have in this 20th century, I don't think that hard push on the children actually makes the impact.
Let me come from the other part of this whole thing. Yes, you are probably saying something against the culture.
Which is.
But I think growing up as a person, it's probably quite a fair deal, I should say, training a child in that way.
I understand.
As an African parent,
I'm a supporter of because I'm a mom actually. Okay. I'm a supporter of correcting the child, being strict with the child, being able to know, this is it, and you have to take a stop.
Set the boundaries.
Set the boundaries. But I'm not. I'm someone who is also the supporter of discussion. being friends with the children, being able to talk, you know, with the children,
that which is very important. I think that's where our parents are getting it wrong. You scold the child and you forget to bring the child back. You forget to bring the child back and talk to the child and nurture the child and tell the child how it should be done. Because beating the child and not telling the child what the child did that was wrong or right, it's still another
I understand. Anyway, right now we're going to take a short break. When we get to our discussion part, we're going to be having Mr. Charles Ibe joining us. So we're going to elaborate a lot about this implementation of the child right. But before then, stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
break, we will be going on the Health and Living session with Lillian Ambi. Stay tuned.
Welcome to another episode of Healthy Living. I am Lillian Ambi. Today I shall be talking about body odor. Body odor is the perceived unpleasant smell our body can give off if bacteria that live on the skin breaks down sweat into acid. Sometimes odor can't be tackled with only soap and scrubs. Here are a few factors that can give you body odor. We have the first one, not bathing at least twice a day. Secondly, repeating your inner wears without washing them. We have the third one, addiction to spicy food. What you eat and do has a lot to do with the smell your body produces. We have the fourth one, leaving your pubic area unkept. Not washing your stockings regularly and not drying your shoes when water touches them. And here are some tips on how to treat your body odor by yourself. Wash your armpits, groins, foot at least twice a day. Shave your armpits and pubic areas. Use antiperspirants and deodorants. Change and wash your clothes regularly. Wear natural fabrics like cotton, wool, and silk. Wear antibacterial socks. And lastly, do not eat too much strong, smelly, and spicy food. Thanks for watching today's episode. I still remain Lillian Ambi.
Right now in the studio, we're going to be taking up to the favorite, of course, segment of this show, which is the entertainment gist. I know a lot of the youths at home, this is your favorite part, yeah. So this morning, I have Priscilla with me, where she's going to be giving us all the latest gist on social media. Be with us.
So there's always something happening in the world of entertainment. And today I have a lineup of interesting topics from the weekend. Our first story is about Uriel Oputa. She causes a stir on social media when she rocks this 600,000 naira awards dress. The Big Brother Nigeria star and chef Uriel Oputa recently posted pictures of herself in a dress worth 600,000 naira on Instagram. The reality star had revealed before posting the pictures that the dress is worth 600k and it was gifted to her. The pictures of her in this expensive dress has got the whole of social media talking. So like usually celebrities wear a lot of expensive things, from designers to everything, their cars, their clothes and everything. So like it's not new for celebrities to post stuff like this, but it's the first time Uriel is wearing something this expensive. So a lot of people are talking, wondering.
I'm thinking right now in the country.
600,000.
I mean, and it's not like she said who she told everybody else who gave her the dress. She said it was gifted to her. So like everybody's wondering who would give her a dress worth that amount.
So some of these are stars. Sometimes they tell us it's 600, but actually it's actually copy.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I just feel it's a congratulations to Uriel. Probably she has someone already. I mean, she's been talking about a man.
You know how celebrities are. They never give us the full story. They just give us half and let us think and wonder.
We would help them sort out the news story. Of course, you know how the media is.
Of course. Now to the next story. Celebs attend Ike Osai-Kodowa's 40th birthday dressed as their favorite Game of Thrones character. The Game of Thrones themed birthday party of media personality Ike Osai-Kodowa was attended by Nigeria celebs in costumes. Adesu Aitomi dressed as Daenerys Targaryen, her husband Banky W as Jorah Mormont, Ebuka as Jon Snow, Bovi as the Night King, his wife as the Red Queen, Bukola Dakolo and his wife. She dressed as Cersei and he dressed as Spartacus. Game of Thrones just came to an end. And everybody is talking about it. And the fact that they did a Game of Thrones theme party, that is amazing. Like,
yeah, that's so beautiful because it's actually, immediately the season 8 is out. Everybody was waking. And then they released this wine that everybody was talking about, the White Walker.
Yes,
I had friends who actually bought it immediately it was launched because they said it's limited edition.
Yes.
But I saw a couple of it in our mall here in
welcome to Nigeria. Happy birthday to Aiko Bona, then we should say.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, is it not limited edition? How come we have lots and lots of buses?
Nigeria.
Welcome to Nigeria, of course. But the costumes were lovely. The fact that they did this, it's so cool. You know,
that's the trending
series when I heard
right
it was
now.
Game of Thrones team party, I was feeling like they would not be able to, do it
Lock
right.
it up,
but my goodness, I was astonished at how well they did it. So they definitely did a good job. So let's move on to the next story. The next story is about Regina Daniels, her marriage induction rituals in Delta State. Recently, a married actress, Regina Daniels, had her official marriage induction rituals into Anoima community womanhood, where her husband hails from. Members of the coalition of Nigerian entertainers and celebrities graced the occasion. Celebrities in attendance included included Charles Inoje, Chinedu Ikedieze, Ejike Asaigu, MC Papi, and other celebs. And you know, a lot of talk has been going about this marriage of hers.
Yeah,
so like she did her induction, and a lot of celebrities were in attendance. They're definitely supporting her, even though a lot of backlash has come from this whole marriage thing to a man way older than she is. But celebrities are supporting her.
That's the main thing, because I really have no issues or no problem with her getting married. The main thing is her age. I don't know if she's 18 as supposed. I don't know.
I think she's a little bit older than 18.
Well, before now we had it that she was 18. So all of a sudden she's married and she's above 18.
Yeah.
You know, when Daniels was seen as one of the star kid actor we had in Nigeria, or we have in Nigeria, or had, I should say, because she's now an adult all of a sudden. So congratulations to Regina, we should say.
Yeah. You know how these things are in Nigeria, things are never white and black. There's always grey.
Yeah,
so let's just leave it at that. Congratulations to you, Regina. Now to the next story. Richard Mufedamijo, he writes on finding true happiness. His statement, having been there and done that, I can tell you for free that weight loss, weight gain, butt enlargement, boob enlargement, marriage, buying or building your own house, having kids, wearing expensive clothes and shoes cannot make you truly happy. Mostly the things we do to show others we are beautiful, made, tough, and or connected are things that magnify our insecurities. A man who is secure in himself has no urge to flaunt wealth. I'm yet to see Alhaji Dangote post a picture of his machines or of him chilling in a private jet. A woman who is secure in her looks has no urge to go under the knife for enhancements. Think Michelle Obama. True happiness comes from knowing who you are, self-discovery, and loving yourself even though anyone can live without the validation of others. It is one who finds happiness that does that, he writes. So like this statement of his, he dropped on social media, a lot of people are talking about it. I personally totally agree with him. I feel like sometimes we get it wrong when we go after these things and feel like they would give us some kind of
but you know, sometimes with being a lady, sometimes even the butt enlargements, the boob enlargements makes you happy.
It does.
It actually, some ladies who feel, for me, whatever makes you happy. If posting a picture on the jet makes you happy, why
does
not?
it really make you happy? Because
I feel a lot of ladies are gaining confidence with it.
You gain the confidence from the initial point of the whole thing, and then subsequently everying changes.
Yeah, I mean, come on, these things. For how long can they keep you happy?
Because this takes us down to the suicide aspect of this whole rigmarolling we go through every day in Nigeria. The suicide, and then of course someone feeling like the cyberbully we talked about the other time. Someone feeling like, oh, I am not better, I am not a good person, I am not beautiful.
If it's not coming from the inside, you know. But it also takes us to the other aspects, because we can argue it the whole day actually. Some people, these things are what makes them happy. Some ladies don't have confidence in themselves.
So how long does it keep you happy?
I think some people, it keeps them happy for a while.
That's the problem.
It keeps them as long as happy as could they find.
Well, I think you both have your own. In fact, let's not even go there. Let's just keep going. Now, the next story. Ed Sheeran, he makes 500 million euros from his successful tour. Ed Sheeran is well on his way to becoming a billionaire before he turns 30. The English singer and songwriter, currently 28 years old, has amassed some wealth from his success of his tour, and the amount is close to 500 million euros, and he's set to earn even more before the end of his tour. And Ed Sheeran has always been super talented. His music is always amazing content, and right now everybody's coming out for his tour. It's every city, he takes this amazing picture in the stadium, and it's like full and
I'm a fan of his actually, because his music, like, it's really, really nice. I love his music. And sometimes when I think he did one music with Beyonce or something. So it's really nice to see that actually people can be billionaires before they are 30. That's an encouragement. Legally.
Yeah, of course. Because the fact is, Ed Sheeran, he's more of a subtle person. He's not flamboyant or anything. He's very chill. In fact, he looks like a nerd. So the fact that somebody like that can earn so much money is just amazing.
That's true. All right. Thank you, Priscilla, for being here to gist us all the gist. Right now, we are going to be back after the break. Stay with us. Favorite breakfast show. Like I told you earlier, we'll be having our colleague, Mr. Charles Ibe, discussing on the child rights implementation in Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Mr. Charles.
Thank you very much. And also, Happy Children's Day, Nigeria. Happy Children's Day, Africa. Are you a child out there be happy, rejoice, and be glad it is your day. Are you a father? Are you a mother? Are you an auntie? It is a day to remember that, yes, those lovely creatures, those lovely human beings that God has put in your hands, in your house, in your care, they are special and they need to be taken care of. They need to be protected. They need to be given the utmost attention because they have been listed as vulnerable category of human beings. That's going by the United Nations definition of a child, which says that any human being below the age of 18 is seen as a child. Yes, and now so it has to be taken care of. It's assumed that they have not really gotten to the age of thinking for themselves, being able to do independent for themselves and all of that. So it's the expectation that the family as a unit, the individual, the parents, whoever is a caregiver, should do the utmost to ensure that the rights of the child as a full human being are not impeded on in any way at all. And also it's very, very, very key that Nigeria keyed into the Global Child Rights Act. You understand? I think the Child Rights Act, the United Nations put it up in 1999. Yes. So it was brought into being as a holistic approach towards protecting the rights of the child. But then in 2003, Nigeria came up with the Child Rights Act, which is a domestication of the Global Charter, African Charter on the Rights of the Human Person, and then the United Nations Act on the Child Rights Act. So they put it all together and came up with specifications, guidelines, and especially legislation that ensures that the rights of the child is not impeded.
You know, Mr. Charles, you talking about this rights, it actually surprises me because I'm wondering, I didn't know we have something like that.
Yes.
You know, it's something that usually doesn't come up, people don't talk about it, because if there's an act like this, why are the children on the streets? Who are in charge of taking care of this?
It's something about people get on a need-to-know basis, you understand? We have enlightenment, just like what we are doing right now. A lot of people do not know that these children, even though they are below the age, they still have rights. Even though as a parent you have to think for them, you have to do a lot of things for them. There are things that you are expected as a parent to do. There are guidelines to ensure, for instance, they must have a roof over their head, they must have clothing, they must be fed 3 square meals. They must be in school when they need to be in school. They must be given adequate health care when they fall sick. Preventive measures to ensure that they don't fall sick. Protection against societal ills. Exposure to harmful behaviors, harmful environments, drugs and all of that. Yeah. It is all these things are enshrined in the Act. So to make sure that if you as a parent don't do this or don't do that, you are going against the law.
But is the country ever charging parents? Because it bothers me.
I just feel they actually
in some way. Yes, in some way.
Of course, there is a law. We all know there is a legislative law guiding this whole child rights process. But I feel that there should be some form of enforcement.
Is there any enforcement? Let's take Abuja as an example. Is there any enforcement in Abuja?
Especially in Abuja, where we have children hawking on the street end.
Exactly. There are institutions.
Even during school hours.
There are agencies, there are institutions that takes care of all of this. But the problem is, this Child Rights Act has the Nigerian constitution, the legislation has already put it up, but it is expected that it be domesticated by state houses of assembly, which translates that every state, the FCC has to ensure and implement it. That means setting up institutions or bodies that ensure that all these things are protected. But the last we heard from UNICEF, that was sometime around August last year, that 14 states out of the 36 states and the FCT are yet to domesticate this Child Rights Act. You understand? So that's why we still have a lot of children still roaming the streets. Children are out of school. Children are not being properly taken care of. For instance, like you have the Marjorie, it's still an issue.
Yes, coming from that angle, particularly talking about the child marriage.
Yeah.
Child marriage, especially in the north. This is more of a cultural thing than it is
religion.
Yeah, it's more of a,
that is what we're talking about. It's expected that any state that has adopted this and domesticated this act is supposed to put up modalities to ensure that things like child marriage, forced labor,
but child marriage is more of a traditional.
But this act does it oversees all the religion, the cultural aspect of us in Nigeria?
The act says any circumstance at all that will impede on the development of the child, be it religious, be it cultural, the act does not take into consideration.
Yeah.
A child has to be protected until he is 18 and above, depending on the situation.
You know, it's just like what came up the last time about this FCT arrest on prostitutes. You know, the statistics shows that half of those girls who get into prostitution actually started before they are 18.
Exactly.
You know, and it takes me to, it's what the government, because we could have this act, write it all over the books. The implementation is the most important part of
the enforcement.
Yes, exactly.
Of it.
That's why it behoves on every, like what we are doing right now, advocacy, to ensure that people know what they need to know. Parents need to know. There is no excuse at all for your 15-year-old daughter to be at a club or to when he's supposed to be at home reading his book.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that 9-year-old child to be hawking on the street. Perhaps they will talk about economy. They are trying to help the family to make ends meet, but that is child labor. If you don't have what it takes to bring up children and take care of them, why don't have to
So
go
what about
there?
children that are already in the university, or out of university, or in the process in the university before 18?
You know that's just like the recent issue with JAM that we have somebody that scored 15. You understand, at the age 15 and Unilag saying they're not going to admit him. You understand? It's part of that. There is supposed to be an age.
Because a child from this age already in the university with all the exposure and all of that. It's.
But that's
how do we control that?
If the family starts meeting up with their responsibility to the child from the tender age, even at the age of 20, you find out that those principles that family has imbibed in that child, it will be difficult for him to depart from it. And the child will be able to cope when he gets to the university. Because I think the bottom line of the not admitting people below the age, certain age into university, they will be easily influenced by the society, by things they see. They are susceptible to certain, because they are, at that age, they are very, very impressionable. They can be impressed by a lot of things. So you understand? But there are some cultures, or there are some norms that if the family is going or by what is traditionally set out to do, it starts at home. Yeah. So this day in particular, because the child did not just drop anywhere. Of course. A child is born into a family, a child is born into a community, is born into a society. So it's the collective responsibility of everybody. If that parent is not meeting up with his or her duties towards the child, there are welfare. There are issues of welfare. You understand? I've seen cases where a child is taken away from the family and sent to a welfare or a foster home. Yes, it does. Because the parents cannot take care of the child. You understand? And sometimes
the first time I'm actually hearing that
it happens in Nigeria. In the social development in FCT here, they take care. They handle a lot of issues. And most of the time, when some of these children are picked off the streets, hawking and all of that, you find out that they are taken into custody. Their parents are brought in and charged. And if during the process of the investigation, and find out that these parents cannot provide for these children are sent to foster homes. They are sent to places where they will be provided for and taken care of.
Yeah,
all these things
how
are
about empowering these parents instead of taking them? Because I mean, the mother and parent and a child relationship.
Yeah, just like you said, sometimes if you're passing, maybe you should try passing, the Banex Junction. If you try going there around 10 in the night and all that, you notice that, and that breaks my heart anytime I see that. you notice some mothers backing their children and selling bananas and granola.
In
And
the
this
sun.
goes deep into, not even in the sun, this goes deep into the night. We're talking
yeah.
about 10 p.m.,
Okay.
The
11
African
p.m.,
setting,
1
these children
p.m.
would have to grow to now
And
start
I'm
assisting
wondering-
the parents.
And you know what breaks my heart? These people do it right next to a police checkpoint. And you see parents backing their children, small children actually, you know,
Yes.
babies,
Infants.
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you know, these are some of the societal lapses that we're talking about, that this act also tries to put in.
Put in
When there are
place.
institutions who knows that, right, the policeman might not really be his own cut out responsibility to find out what are you doing outside with your child at this particular point in time. But if there's an institution or an agency that knows this is not supposed to be at this point in time, then they go on to take care of it. And then one key aspect of this act, Child's Right Act, is the one that said it prohibits separation of a child from the parents.
That is
Understand?
if the parents
It
are
prohibits
capable.
separation of the child, except when some conditions makes it possible, except when on some conditions it becomes inevitable that child has to be separated. But then how do you now begin to decide, okay, this condition is that makes you to separate a child? That's because, sometimes in the southern part of Nigeria, you find that there is this issue of domestic labor. If a young couple gets married, they start having kids, they go to the village and pick up a young child of 5 or 6, and they put that child in the house.
It actually happens
a
virtually
nanny,
everywhere,
and
yeah.
then he sweeps. He does all the chores, which normally an adult supposed to do.
Even
And
in
then
Abuja now,
yes,
civilized
it's-
women, you know, people that
Prefer
even
to
know
take
about these
children.
acts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They prefer to take children.
Such things are not, they are going right against this Child's Rights Act. That child is supposed to be in school. That child is supposed to be somewhere growing, developing normally at his own pace. And you find out that mostly those children in those environments are expected to act far older than their age. And when they try to act 5 or 6, you see them being beaten and being brutalized. And we've had cases, I've seen a lot of cases of this happening. So these are what the society is speaking out against, using this opportunity of the day of the International Day for Children to say that children need protection, children need to be cared for. We've seen issue of parents even sending their children into prostitution at such an tender age, being sent out to go and live with one auntie or the other, basically, okay, because we cannot provide for you, this auntie is going to give you good education and all of that. And when they go out there, it's not
what they actually promised the parents.
So I think this occasion would have to use this opportunity to really, I think, if you ask me, it should be centered on parents. Couples who are planning to get married, have it at the back of your mind. How many children can you bring in? How many children can you be able to take care of? What's your income level? What can you really? Because it doesn't make sense to bring these young children into innocent children, and then you cannot be able to take care of them. And I don't know, our Marjorie situation is. It has been an ongoing, and hopefully there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles, for joining us on this segment. And that takes us back to the houses. Take care of your children. You know, children, have fun today. It's your day. Make sure mommy and daddy buys you your favorite toy, takes you to the favorite places where you need to play. And don't forget, you're the future of tomorrow.
And if you can't buy, be happy.
That's true. That brings us to the end of this segment on Daybreak Africa. Do not forget, you can always follow us and leave your comments on our social media handle. We'll be back same time tomorrow. I am Lucy Ora.
And I am Sapphire. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army